Hello everyone, I am Third Mario Brother, and welcome to Let's Play Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Sega Game Gear, which has a surprisingly cutesy intro theme compared to its Genesis counterpart. Now, if you're not particularly interested in seeing Sonic 1 Genesis played over again on an inferior console with inferior graphics and sound capabilities, which I could classify myself as one of those people, never fear, because this game is a different one. You can already see the level design here in Green Hill Zone is different than it was in Sonic 1 Genesis. And the similarities end between this game and its Genesis counterpart at they share two zones, they share some items and enemies, and they share the same basic controls. All you can do in this game is run, roll, and jump on enemies. There's no spin dash, and none of the more modern Sonic stuff. None of that stuff came around until Sonic 2, sadly. And in this game, it's surprising, because there are no loop-de-loops. I guess that's because the Game Gear wasn't advanced enough at this point. Well, not the Game Gear itself, but the developers who were creating games for the Game Gear weren't advanced enough at this point to program something like that in. Later Game Gear games did have loop-de-loops, which is a very welcome addition, of course, but this one didn't, which is weird. Like I said, this game shares two zones with Sonic 1 for the Genesis. One of which is Green Hill, which we're in right now, exploring an underground part of Green Hill that wasn't in the Genesis version, which is very interesting. And the other zone I'm not going to spoil right now. You're very welcome. That down arrow that I just bounced on, it took me forever to figure out what this was. I guess I haven't played enough old games that use this sort of system, but that was a checkpoint, so if I die, then I'll reappear on top of that checkpoint. However, you have to hit the checkpoint again. Yes, you have to hit it for a second time if you want to get the checkpoint again after you die. So, if you die and come back to there, remember to hit the checkpoint again, or else you're going to get lost. Of course, Green Hill Zone, being the first zone and all, is a very short one. We're almost coming up on the end of Act 2 here, if I recall correctly. And, of course, 3-act system, just as there was in the Genesis version. The third act of these games, though, and I love rolling down hills in this game, it's very, very easy to run off the side of the screen and go too fast for the camera to keep up with you, which I love doing in this game. So much easier than it was in Sonic 1 for the Genesis. And I don't want to call it Sonic 1 Genesis, because that was the title of a Game Boy Advance remake of Sonic 1 for the Genesis that was absolutely atrocious. But anyway, that's off topic. 3-act systems, the third act is a little bit shorter in this game, and here we are on a special stage, which you can reach by getting 50 rings by the end of an act. You may be thinking to yourself, oh, this is where you get the Chaos Emerald, right? Well, if you're thinking that to yourself, that'd be a little bit silly, because we already got one of the Chaos Emeralds in this game, and as you saw, it wasn't in a special stage, it was just kind of laying around in the middle of the act. Yep, that's right, in this game, you don't get Chaos Emeralds through special zones, or special stages, or whatever you want to call them. You get them in the level itself, which I actually think is kind of interesting. I think they could have used something like this, more often in the Sonic series. Of course, there were gimmicks like this in Sonic Advanced, the Sonic Advanced series, where you had to collect a bunch of things to get the Chaos Emerald. I didn't like that so much, but I like the whole search and explore thought process that was going on here. The levels are a bit flat and bland in this game. None of them are very maze-like, but you know, it's fun to have have a new Chaos Emerald system in place. Anyway, this is the world's hardest boss, guys. Pay careful attention to what I'm going to do, or else you'll never succeed. I'm not even kidding you. That boss took me at least 24 tries the first playthrough I had of this game. Speaking of the first playthrough I had of this game, I've never owned a Sega Game Gear, or never even played on one, despite being an avid Sonic fan my entire life, and to a lesser extent a Sega fan. I've heard, though, I've heard so much about the Sega Game Gear, it's ridiculous. Apparently there's a lot of nostalgia associated with it, which I can see, especially since quite a few Sonic games were released for it. But yeah, apparently it was a monster of a handheld console. It couldn't fit in your pocket, which makes it really hard to port around, so calling it portable isn't exactly accurate. And apparently it sucked down batteries like nobody's business. I think it took 6 AA batteries, and its lifespan, well, they only lasted between 4 and 5 hours. I believe it was 4 hours for the older models, 5 hours for the newer models. And on top of that, it cost about $80 more than a Game Boy, or something along those lines. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. I'm not sure on these statistics. I didn't go to a library and research this game before I started recording this, but Yeah, Game Gear wasn't too popular in Japan as far as I know. I'm not sure about America. But yeah, I never owned one. The way I played them, the way I played the Sonic Game Gear games for the first time was through Sonic Adventure DX, where if you collect all the emblems in that game, you unlock all the Game Gear games. But I digress. This is Bridge Zone, which is actually a very cool zone in my opinion. I love the music here, and I really wish they brought Bridge Zone back in Sonic Generations. The handheld version of Sonic Generations I still haven't played, but I don't think it's on there either. So, yeah, I was really disappointed when this zone didn't come back in Sonic Generations, but I guess because this game was a lot less popular than the console versions, or console version and all the other console Sonic games, they didn't feel the need to bring it back. Anyway, here we are on another special stage, and if I haven't explained these sufficiently yet, I will. You have a chance to collect 100 rings, which will earn you an extra life, of course. And I quite like the jingle for that in this game as well. And there are boxes that say C-O-N-T laying around the stage. If you jump on one of those, you get to continue, as you probably would be able to assume. Lives in this game are not an issue. Continues in this game are even less of an issue. I think I end the game usually on my playthroughs with 6 or 7 continues at the very least. Getting 50 getting 50 rings in the stages is not a very difficult thing to do, and so I'm usually able to get a bunch of continues by the end of the game, and there's never really any chance of dying. Anyway, here is an auto-scrolling level in a Sonic game. The first time I played through this game, I was extremely surprised to find this. Auto-scrolling and Sonic really don't seem like they should go together, now do they? I hate that enemy. I always roll into him. Even though that should kill him, apparently it hurts me, but whatever. Like I was saying, auto-scrolling levels in Sonic games, they really shouldn't go together. Sonic is all about speed, and auto-scrolling just inhibits that so much. You have to go with the flow of the game, you can't go at your own pace. I don't really like it. And there aren't any particularly difficult platforming sections in this either, so oh well, whatever. It gives us a chance to enjoy this awesome music. Yeah, these pink enemies, though, they have spikes on their top, so if you jump on them, they hurt you. Half the time. And they have claws in the front, so if you roll into them, they hurt you half the time. I've killed them without taking damage before, but it's very difficult, and it seems almost like it's totally chalked up to chance whether that happens or not. They're like Caterkillers in Sonic 1 for the Genesis. Except Caterkillers in this game are significantly less vicious, significantly less, fear-worthy, I suppose. But they're replaced by that sort of wheel crab-looking... I'm not even sure what it's supposed to be, so I'm gonna stop embarrassing myself right now. And before I forget, the signs at the end of the level, of course you've seen that they can turn into Eggman if you have less than 50 rings. They can turn into an exclamation point, which takes you to a special stage if you have more than 50 rings. You've seen both of those. And a lot of people think that there isn't a Sonic sign in this game, where you run past it and it turns into Sonic's face rather than Eggman's face or an exclamation point. Well, there actually is one in this game. I've gotten it once before, but I have no idea what I did to get it, so I'm not entirely sure what the benefit of getting it is. I'm not entirely sure how to get it, but I've gotten it before. So just so you know, it is possible to get a Sonic sign. I think I got it in a special stage, actually. I could be wrong on that, though. I've played through this game so many times. It's a very short game as well. Under an hour in length, I believe. I could be wrong on that, so don't hold me to it. But yeah, it's a fun one just to play through in one sitting. Play through multiple times in one sitting, even. And yeah, I've played through this game more than once in one sitting. Mostly while doing other things, like talking to other people, though I don't sit down and say, okay, I'm gonna speedrun Sonic 1 for the Game Gear. I'm not into that kind of stuff, but yeah, it's a reasonably fun game, reasonably captivating, especially if you're pretty good at it, and I'm not saying that I'm good at it because, as you can see, I'm struggling so much in this special stage right now, which isn't designed to be too hard, at least I don't think. But yeah, it's a fun game, fast-paced, fun, everything you like about a Sonic game. Controls are a little bit wonky at times, but it's a good one overall. Now here we are, moving into the third act of Bridge Zone with our second Chaos Emerald in hand, and we just passed 100,000 points. Cool. As you can see, between the levels, you can see, well, what am I trying to say here? You can see a map overview of South Island. Yes, this game is also located on South Island, just as the Genesis version was. I think it's sort of a reimagining of the Genesis version, or maybe the events of this game and the Genesis version both occurred. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, you can see a map of South Island when you're transitioning between acts and zones, and in the third act, Eggman will always show his face just to signify that you're going to be fighting him this time. This Eggman boss is pretty easy too. He'll appear on a random side of the bridge. I thought he alternated from left to right, but I guess I was wrong on that. And all you have to do is jump on his head. He always fires his lasers or bullets or whatever they are off to the side, so there's really no need to worry if you're bouncing on his head. But yeah, there we go. We've beaten the second Eggman boss. Hit the button on the capsule, and freed all our little animal friends. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in episode 2 of Sonic 1 Game Gear, where we continue the game.